Before you keep scrolling, I need you to hear something most men never get told. You've already been there. You were in a conversation with a woman and something felt different. Something in the air shifted. She laughed a beat longer than the joke deserved. She moved her chair slightly closer than she needed to. And later, when you replayed the whole thing in your head, you thought, was that something? Or am I reading into it? Here's what I know for certain after years of studying this. In most of those moments, it was something. The signals were there. Real, measurable, biologically driven signals that her body was sending without her conscious permission. And you missed them. Not because you're not observant, not because you're not intelligent, but because no one ever showed you what you were actually looking for. Today, that changes. I'm going to walk you through 7 physical signs. Not assumptions, not guesses, but documented, studied, specific behaviors that prove she's attracted to you. And I'll tell you up front, sign number 5 is the one that surprises men the most in the comments, because it's the one that looks, on the surface, like the opposite of attraction. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you're not going to just know more. You're going to see differently. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Before the first sign, though, one thing. The biggest mistake men make when they learn to read these signals is that they start looking for them like a checklist, like a test. And that's exactly when they stop seeing them. Attraction doesn't perform for an audience. It leaks. These signals aren't put on for you. They're pulled out of her by something she can't fully control. Your job isn't to hunt. It's to be present enough to receive. Keep that with you. Now let's get into it. Sign 1. She creates physical proximity without a practical reason. You're standing in a group. There are 8, maybe 10 people. There's enough space for everyone to spread out comfortably. And she ends up next to you, close enough that your arms could touch, close enough that you can hear her without raising your voice, for no logistical reason you can explain. That's not accident. That's selection. Dr. Tiffany Field of the University of Miami's Touch Research Institute has documented something that most people experience but rarely name. Human beings unconsciously minimize the physical distance to sources of attachment. In plain terms, we get closer to what we want without necessarily deciding to. It's a motor behavior driven by the same neural architecture that makes you lean toward something you're interested in. It's older than language. It's older than conscious thought. The man who doesn't understand this sees her standing next to him and thinks, she just ended up there. The man who understands what you now understand sees something entirely different. She chose where to be in the room, and she chose to be near you. James, 58, told me once that he spent 3 years working alongside a woman who consistently stood next to him at every company event, sat near him in every meeting, and always found a reason to be on his side of any room. He thought she was just friendly. She thought he wasn't interested. They finally talked about it years later. By then, the window had closed. Don't be James. The proximity signal is most powerful when it's repeated across different settings. Once might be coincidence. Twice is a pattern. 3 or more times is a statement her body is making that her mouth hasn't committed to yet. Watch for it not in a single moment, but across moments. She doesn't have to be near you. The fact that she is the message. Before we go further, if you're finding this useful, there's a resource in the first comment below. It goes deeper into the behavioral patterns we're talking about today, specifically how to respond to these signals in a way that builds tension instead of collapsing it. It's linked in the first comment. Worth your time. Sign 2. Her feet point toward you, even when her body doesn't. This one is subtle, and because it's subtle, it's one of the most reliable signals you'll ever learn to read. Picture this. You're at a gathering. She's talking to someone else, facing them, giving them her attention. But her feet are angled toward you, not turned all the way, just pointed, just slightly rotated in your direction. That detail is not accidental, and it's not something she chose. Body language researchers have long noted that the lower body is the least consciously controlled part of human physical expression. We monitor our face, we manage our hands, we think about our posture, at least sometimes. But we almost never think about where our feet are pointing, which means feet tell the truth, even when everything else is being managed. A study published in the Journal of Nonverbal Behavior found that foot orientation is one of the most consistent unconscious indicators of social interest and approach motivation, meaning people point their feet toward what they want to move toward the people and things that pull them. If she's in a conversation with someone else and her feet are angled towards you, even slightly, her nervous system has made a decision that her mind hasn't caught up with yet. This is the detail that separates men who understand attraction from men who are still waiting for a woman to spell it out. She's already spelled it out, just not in the alphabet most men know how to read. Marcus, 63, learned this during a workshop on interpersonal dynamics. He went home and paid attention differently at the next social event he attended. He found himself noticing, with the kind of quiet precision he hadn't known he was capable of, that a woman he'd been speaking to for months and thought of only as a friend, had spent the last 4 events with her feet always, consistently, no matter who she was talking to, angled in his direction. He told me, "I felt like I'd been blind and someone had just handed me glasses." The feet are honest when everything else is performing. Sign 3. She touches her own face or neck while talking to you. If the previous sign was subtle, this one operates at a frequency even further below conscious awareness. You're talking to her. She reaches up and touches the side of her neck. Or she runs her fingers along her collarbone. Or she touches her face. Not to fix her hair, not to wipe anything, but just touches it. A gesture with no practical purpose. Here's what's happening underneath that gesture. Dr. David Buss, evolutionary psychologist at the University of Texas, and one of the most cited researchers in human attraction science, has written extensively on the relationship between tactile self-stimulation and nervous system arousal. When attraction is triggered, the body experiences a mild but measurable increase in skin sensitivity. Touching one's own skin, especially in areas like the neck, collarbone, and face, is a self-soothing behavior that simultaneously signals elevated nervous system activity and draws attention to zones of the body that are evolutionarily associated with vulnerability and femininity. In simpler terms, she's not thinking about it. Her body is doing it for her, because something in your presence is activating something in her nervous system that she doesn't entirely know what to do with. The mistake most men make here is dramatic misreading. They see her touch her neck and think she's uncomfortable, or nervous in a bad way, or distracted. And they pull back. They give her space. They become less present, precisely when becoming more present would have been the right move. If she's touching her neck or face while talking to you, especially if the gesture appears during a moment of eye contact or after something you said, read it for what it is, her body responding to you before her words have caught up. This escalates. It gets stronger. And the next sign, the one most men never think to look for, happens even deeper in the body's involuntary language. Sign 4. Her pupils are larger. When she looks at, you stay with me on this one, because I know what you're thinking. How am I supposed to notice that? You'll notice it. Once you know what you're looking for, you'll notice it the same way you notice when someone's energy shifts when you walk into a room. Your perception calibrates to what you give it permission to track. Here's the science. Pupil dilation is controlled by the autonomic nervous system, the part of your nervous system that runs below conscious control. When the brain registers something it finds desirable, stimulating, or threatening, the pupils expand to take in more visual information. It's the same reflex whether you're looking at someone you're attracted to or stepping into a dark room. The body wants more data on what matters. Research published in Psychological Science documented that pupil dilation in response to attractive stimuli is not only measurable but consistent across subjects. More specifically, studies on interpersonal attraction have found that pupils dilate an average of 45% when a person is looking at someone they find attractive, a response that cannot be faked, suppressed, or controlled through conscious effort. You don't need to measure millimeters. You need to be close enough and present enough to notice. Her eyes look different when she looks at you than they do when she looks at someone else. Softer, larger, more open. This is one of the signals that women themselves are often unaware they're broadcasting. When women have been told about pupil dilation as an attraction cue in research contexts, many report genuine surprise. Not at the science, but at the realization that they've been that transparent without knowing it. What the body shows when the mind isn't watching is the cleanest signal you'll ever receive. I want to pause here, not to interrupt the content, but because something that often comes up at this point is this. Men learn to read these signals, and then they freeze. They don't know what to do next. If that's you, if you've ever missed a window not because you didn't see it, but because you didn't know what to do with what you saw, there's something in the first comment below that addresses exactly that. The link is there. Check it when you're done. Sign 5. She becomes more physically careful around you, not more casual. This is the one that surprises men the most, and it's the one most misread as disinterest. You've noticed it before. A woman who's laughing and loose and easy around everyone else becomes slightly more measured around you, more deliberate, more aware of how she's sitting, how she's moving, what she's doing with her hands. She seems more careful. And you think, she's not comfortable with me. I make her nervous. Maybe she doesn't like me. That's the wrong read, and it costs men more missed opportunities than almost any other misinterpretation in this space. Here's what's actually happening. When attraction is present, the brain's social monitoring system goes into a higher state of activation. We become more aware of how we're presenting ourselves to the specific person we want to impress. The casualness you see her have with everyone else isn't comfort. It's indifference. The carefulness she has around you isn't discomfort. It's investment. Think about it from your own experience. When you genuinely don't care what someone thinks of you, you're completely relaxed around them. You sprawl in your chair. You don't think twice about what you say. But when someone matters, when their opinion of you has weight, you become more considered, not stiff, just more present to yourself in their presence. She's doing the same thing. Her body is responding to the fact that you matter to her assessment. And that response looks like heightened self-awareness. Dr. Amy Cuddy's research on social self-monitoring and impression management at Harvard Business School documented that people expend significantly more cognitive and physical energy managing their self-presentation around individuals who hold evaluative weight in their perception. That is, people whose opinion of them they care about. The more she cares about how you see her, the more careful she becomes in her physical presentation around you. Thomas, 61, came to me after ending a relationship he still didn't fully understand. He described a woman he'd been drawn to, but had backed away from because she was always a bit stiff around me. He'd interpreted her composure as distance. It took him 2 years to realize, after watching her dynamic with other men who were far less attentive to her, that her composure around him had been a sign of something else entirely. Casualness is indifference in a social disguise. Carefulness, around the right person, is the highest compliment the body knows how to pay. Sign 6. She mirrors your movements and posture. Without realizing it, you shift in your seat, slightly, without thinking. A few seconds later, she shifts too. You rest your arm on the table. She places her hand on the surface near you. You lean in slightly. The distance between you quietly closes. Behavioral synchrony, the unconscious mirroring of another person's movements, posture, and gestures, is one of the most documented phenomena in social psychology, and it's also one of the most reliable unconscious indicators of connection and attraction. Research from the Association for Psychological Science has demonstrated that behavioral mirroring is not a conscious choice. It's a neural process driven by the mirror neuron system, and it intensifies in the presence of social affiliation and attraction. In studies where strangers were observed in conversation, dyads who reported feeling strong interpersonal connection were found to mirror each other's movements at rates significantly higher than those who reported neutral or negative impressions of each other. What this means in the physical space you share with her: when she mirrors you, she's not copying you. She's synchronizing with you. Her nervous system is doing something it only does around people it finds compelling. It's pulling her into your physical rhythm without asking her permission. Watch for it across a full conversation. Does she touch her face when you touch yours? Does her posture open when yours does? Does she lean toward you at the same moments you lean toward the conversation? These are not coincidences layered on top of each other. They're the same signal, repeated in the language of the body. And here's what makes this signal particularly significant. Mirroring is bidirectional. It deepens connection at the same time as it reflects it. The more you're genuinely present, the more you're fully in the conversation rather than monitoring it, the more you'll naturally pull her into synchrony with you. Presence creates mirroring. Mirroring creates presence. The loop feeds itself. We're going into the final signal now, and it's the one that ties everything together. But before we get there, if you've ever found yourself in a situation where the signals were there but you didn't know how to build on them in a way that felt natural, not calculated, there's a specific resource in the first comment below that walks through exactly that framework. Men who've used it describe it as the missing piece between reading the room and being in it. It's in the first comment. Take a look after this. Sign 7. She finds excuses to maintain physical contact slightly longer than necessary. She hands you something, and her fingers linger on yours for a fraction of a second longer than the handoff required. She laughs at something you said and touches your arm, and her hand stays for just a beat longer than a casual touch would. She adjusts something near you, fixes something on the table, reaches past you for something, and her arm stays in your space just slightly past the practical need. These micro-extensions of physical contact are some of the most meaningful signals the body produces, and they're almost invisible if you're not calibrated to see them. Here's why they matter. Physical contact between adults, outside of established intimate relationships, is highly regulated by social norms. We've developed an elaborate, mostly unconscious rulebook about who gets to touch whom, for how long, in what context. Violations of that rulebook create friction. Adherence to it keeps things socially smooth. What attraction does is make someone willing to push gently against the rulebook, not in a way that breaks it, but in a way that tests the edge of it. The extended touch is that test. It's not an accident. It's a probe. A way of saying, I want more contact with you than the situation technically requires, and I'm going to see what you do with that. Research from the Touch Research Institute documents that voluntary physical contact extended beyond practical necessity is associated with increased levels of oxytocin, the neurochemical most closely linked to bonding and attraction, in both parties. The touch isn't just a signal. It's a neurochemical event. Her body is creating a bond it wants to create. Michael, 66, told me he'd been talking to a woman for several months. Meetings, group dinners, the occasional one-on-one coffee. He'd noticed, without consciously cataloging it, that she always held his hand a beat longer when they said goodbye. It felt different from how she said goodbye to others. He'd filed it away as, she's just warm. When he finally asked her to dinner, she told him she'd been waiting for months for him to do exactly that. She had been telling him, every time they said goodbye. The extra second is never accidental. The body doesn't maintain contact. It doesn't want to maintain. Closing, what you now see, that you didn't before 7 signs. 7 involuntary, biologically driven, scientifically documented physical behaviors that women display when they're attracted to someone, and that most men walk past without ever registering. But here's what I want you to take away from all of this. Not a checklist, not a technique. Something deeper. Every single one of these signals shares one common root. They're things she can't fake, can't fully control, and can't produce on purpose. They come from a part of her that isn't managing the interaction. They come from the part that has already decided how it feels. Which means what you're learning here isn't a tool for manipulation. It's a tool for clarity, for being present enough to receive what's already being offered, for stopping the cycle of walking away from something real because you weren't calibrated to see it. The men who miss these signals most often aren't the ones who aren't paying attention. They're the ones who've been told, by experience, by disappointment, by years of not knowing, that signals like these don't exist. That attraction is either obvious or it isn't there. And so they stop looking for the quiet ones, the real ones. You now know that the quiet ones are usually the real ones. Proximity chosen repeatedly. Feet angled toward you in a room full of options. A hand on a neck. Pupils that expand in your presence. A carefulness that looks like distance, but means something else entirely. Movements that quietly mirror yours. A touch that holds for just a second longer than it had to. These are 7 ways the body says something the mouth hasn't said yet. And now you know how to hear it. Richard, 69, said something to me that I've thought about many times since. He said, "I spent the first 60 years of my life thinking attraction was something that got announced, and then I realized it was always being broadcast. I just didn't have the receiver on." You have the receiver on now. What you do with that is entirely yours to decide. One thing before you go, and I'll be straightforward with you. This channel exists without sponsorships, without advertising, without any outside influence on what gets said here. The only way that stays possible is through the people who choose to support it voluntarily. If these conversations have been valuable to you, if this is the kind of content you want to keep having access to, there's a voluntary support link in the first comment below. It's not a purchase. It's a way of saying this conversation matters. Completely your choice. Always. I want to leave you with a genuine question, and I want your honest answer in the comments. Of these 7 signs, which one hit closest to home? Which one made you think of a specific moment, a specific woman, a specific conversation, where the signal was there and you misread it or missed it entirely? I ask because every time a man puts that kind of moment into words, something shifts in how he sees the next one. And the comments on videos like this one are some of the most honest conversations I've seen anywhere. Don't hold back. If this reached you at the right moment, and something tells me it did, hit the like button. Not for the numbers. As a signal to yourself that you're ready to pay attention differently. And if you know a man who's been walking past these moments without seeing them, send him this. Sometimes the right video finds someone at exactly the right time. I'll see you in the next one.